Marcus Rashford spent £700,000 on what he thought was a one-of-one Rolls Royce. But after today, it becomes a one-of-two Rolls Royce. That is because Rashford has already replaced this car with an identical spec one. Apart from this time, it's in white, not grey. After crashing this one, I think he had no idea that this Rolls Royce would ever be put back on the road, which is why I think he spec'd his new one exactly the same way. But seeing how good his new one looks, I'm dying to finish repairing mine and get it on the road for good. Oh my God! I've already fitted the rear suspension, the front suspension, and spent a fortune replacing all of the Mansory parts.
I think that's 2,000 something pounds.
And it's still not quite ready. But once I repaired this rear quarter and this structural damage down here, I think this Wraith is almost ready for the road. But oh, how naive was I? Because this damage turns out to be way worse than I originally thought. This rear quarter, believe it or not, can be repaired and shaped back to the original state, which saves us a huge job. So a lot of people would think, why don't you just replace the whole rear quarter? Well, the way it's joined up here, you can see it is very, 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 very tricky. And then we've got to line it all up, make sure the panel gaps are all okay. So if we can avoid that, we're winning. But the only way for us to do this is by taking this piece off, which is absolutely crumpled in. It's all smashed up, which is pulling the rear quarter in because of this is being all smashed up. So in order for us to pull the quarter out, we've got to take all of this boot panel off and replace it, everything which is broken. There's going to be a lot of drilling because all of these are spot welds. All spot welds now. We need to drill all of them out to separate the panels from one another. So let's get drilling. This inner structure of the boot floor is completely toast, but the rear quarter has got better. You can see that this is what it used to look like before the guys from the body shop started pulling it all out and even pushing the inner structure out, but they could only get so far before they were restricted. So in order for them to move any further, we've now got to remove this inner structure of the boot floor, which hopefully by doing so, we should be able to pull out the rear quarter to its original state. And to get this boot floor out, we've got to drill out every single spot weld which is holding it in place. And once the spot welds are drilled out, I'll get my chisel and knock the chisel between the rear quarter and the inner structure. All of the spot welds on the outside here are all cut off the quarter panel and along here. So now we can butcher this up and access the spot welds on the inside, I think, because there's still some more in there which are connecting this battery holder to the car. So I think we need to cut across. I just need to be really careful that I don't damage any parts of the car that I'm going to be welding onto. But with that boot floor cut away, I can access the spot welds now, which join the floor to the rear chassis leg. And instead of drilling these spot welds out, I'm going to be using the belt sander to weaken them. My dad's then drilling out the spot welds underneath the car, whilst I'll get the chisel between the two. Come on. Yeah! Okay, that's one part. That, yeah, it's a hollow chassis leg. With that inner structure off, it's down to the body shop now to hopefully pull out the rest of that rear quarter. But we got the car back on its wheels into the body shop, and a few days later, we had some bad news. We're now at the body shop and there's a change of plan. It's not looking good for us and it looks like we're going to have to do some more work. Let me go show you it. Okay, what is the reason why we're not going to continue pulling this quarter out?
If you look inside here, you've got all these strengtheners held in with foam and sealer, etc. Basically, the supports inside the panel that we couldn't see before are going to cause a real problem when you try pulling and getting it back to shape. So for the easiest, quickest job, I think we're going to put a panel on it.
Yeah, it needs a new panel because the guys were saying that when they're pulling against the inner structure of the car, aren't they? And as soon as you pull that off, it could end up all like wibbly wobbly.
Yeah.
The job ended up way harder than we initially thought, which is not good because we know how much a new panel is. £8,977 plus VAT. Just for this. But we did have a plan B. This is Agnes. A lot of people may be confused if you've not watched Freddie's video. Freddie had to buy another Rolls Royce to fix Sue the Sacrifice. It's a long story, but there's a link in the top right hand corner. But Agnes has a wet engine which doesn't run. It's just going to the greater good now. So here's the plan. We're gonna cut off the rear quarter of Agnes and use it on my Rolls Royce. Now you might be thinking, why wasn't this just the original plan? Well, number one, cutting a rear quarter off a second-hand car is pretty hard, time-consuming, and there's risk of damaging it when removing it. And number two, our parts car's got to be worth a lot more when we resell it if it has a complete working shell. But with this being our only option now, we've got to do it. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Oh my God, I'm not doing that.
I bought some more and I brought you some gloves.
Why am I doing it?
Because it's your video.
So this is it. We've now got to cut off the quarter. It's getting serious. This is going to be pretty brutal.
They suit you.
They look cool. Tool of choice, the steel saw. This should do it the quickest way. At the minute, we're not worried about cutting it off too neat, and we're cutting off way more than we need. Ear protection at the ready. Back at it again with the steel saw. I never would have thought I'd be chopping a Rolls Royce completely in half, but here we are, and even my dad's having a go. We're making our way through it pretty good. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, then now's a good time. We want from here. I can see where the spot weld's on, but Body Shop said take more than we need, so I'm going here. I tell you what, that is some tough metal. The metal on the side of the car is really tough. This is basically where the whole strength of the car is. It took a lot for us to get through this.
I'm hiding behind here.
And then finally, cutting the back pillar. And we was just about off.
Hey!
Oh. It's just on that, you just got to snap it from this joint, and then it's off.
Let's see, let's see.
Oh my God.
Look how crazy this looks. Yeah.
Weight saving. That is so heavy. Okay. Back to the Body Shop. Here's the plan. So when you buy one of these quarters from Rolls Royce on factory, it sort of underlaps the roof panel. So it's going to be really hard to take it off the same way it's put on, but we need to have a look actually how it's joined. So our best way of doing it is literally cutting a hole in this, because this is no good, it's damaged. So if we cut a hole in this, then we can have a look inside, see where it's joined, and then make a plan how we're going to join the one off Agnes onto this one. Yeah, let's start cutting a £700,000 Rolls Royce up. This is not the original plan, but here we are drilling into what once was Marcus Rashford's pride and joy. The first thing I'm doing is drilling a big hole, and then I can get the air saw into it to start cutting off that outer panel. The car's come a long way since it left the Mansory factory like this. And remember, it's only done 1,000 miles, so cutting it like this is really painful. Now that I've cut that panel out, you can see all the foam on the inside that was pulling against. Now if we'd pulled the quarter off this foam, it would have made it really flimsy. And it would have been likely it could have dented again. You could argue that we could have fixed the rear quarter and then put some expanding foam in it, but it would have been really difficult to get to. But it's too late to think about that now. The quarter's off. Right, we're in a pickle. Now we can see how this is built from the inside out. The quarter panel's joined on quite nicely. It's like brazed on in here. It's got a nice join there, no problem. If it was just the quarter panel, we're sound. The problem is it's took the inner structure as well. All of this wheel arch is absolutely peppered. To take this wheel arch off, you can see it's a huge panel, like goes literally all underneath everywhere. To drill it off Agnes, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of labour. So we're thinking, if we get a quote from Rolls Royce for the wheel arch and see how much the wheel arch is, because it'd be nice if we bought a brand new wheel arch along with that and put the new inner structure in and then use Agnes's rear quarter, because we know the rear quarter is £10,000. My prediction is this is going to be £650, something along them line. Prediction?
450.
Okay, so we're in that ballpark, and if it is, I think £450 is worth it more than the labour for us of drilling this off and potentially ruining it as well. The wheel arch turned out to be £535, but the plan changed again. Okay, I think we've got a solution now, and this is probably one of the biggest bit of bodywork that we've ever done. So all of this is going into the Rashford car. We think it's the best way because splitting this quarter panel off, we may cause damage to it by doing so. And also we need not only the quarter panel, we need the wheel arch, and the wheel arch goes all the way inside the car as well. By taking this whole thing off and putting it in, we're going to get all the joins in places where no one's ever going to see them again. Most of the welding is going to be done on the inside of the car now, and it'll be welded in the original factory points. But to prep this panel ready to do this, we've got a lot of drilling. We've got to drill off all the panels which we've cut in half. So we're left with complete panels and the quarter panel as one whole piece to go on the Rashford car. It is a massive job, and there's no wonder insurances wouldn't repair it, because this is absolutely huge. So we've got a lot of drilling to do, starting off with all this, getting it off this rail. Let's do it. First time around was a sinner. This was going to take a very long time. My dad tagged in and started drilling out every single spot weld, whilst I carried on work to the Gallardo, which you'll see in another video. We've got to get off all these parts which aren't complete anymore because we cut through them.
Yay! One of 350 pieces.
That includes this parcel shelf area, which we've cut straight in half, and then this whole piece, including the strut tower, is going to go on my Rolls Royce.
So what we're doing, we're taking all the sealer off so we can expose the spot welds, what need to be drilled off. Also, all in the inner wheel arch, all this sealer's got to come off to expose the spot welds.
And to do this, we've got to remove the rear strut again. We've just got to make sure when we're putting in the new quarter, we put the strut tower in the exact same place it was. But whilst my dad was cracking away at preparing the Agnes rear quarter, the guys at the body shop were starting to remove the rear quarter of the Mansory rolls, grinding off all the sealer which covers over all the spot welds and even some rivets. You can see here just exposing the rivets which hold on this rear quarter. And remember, every single rivet or spot weld that we drill out, we've got to put back in. Once all the spot welds and rivets are drilled out, we can start hammering in the chisel between the chassis rail and the rear quarter to get off the remaining parts of it. And meanwhile, back at the workshop, my dad was doing the exact same thing. And it wasn't long before it looked like this. It is off, fully off and in pieces. And the good thing about this, we've actually took it from all the OEM spots. There's no like cuts midway through a panel and joining it on. Even here, you can see where Rolls Royce join the quarter panel on themselves. So everything is literally as OEM as possible, and it should look absolutely spot on once we've done it. It's still a lot of work to go though. We've got to lift this panel on now and spot weld it all on. So I think that is the next step. We've just got to make sure that we get it right in line perfectly before we put that first weld in, else it is going to be a cattywampus car, innit? The rear quarter, along with all the other inner structural parts, are ready to be lined up with my Rolls Royce. This is one of the biggest parts, structural wise, that we've ever fitted to a car. Now I have to thank the body shop for stepping in and helping me do this, as this is something that the body shop wouldn't usually do. Fitting second-hand structural parts can be a nightmare. But as this is a change of plan, we were going to have to do it anyway, and as the car was at the body shop, they had offered to give us a helping hand. And at least now, I've got peace of mind that this is going to be spot on. Once we've taken the measurements, we can now bring over the welder. And we're going to use the plug weld method to weld this rear quarter onto the rest of the Mansory car. As I mentioned, most of the welds will be on the inside of the car, and once they're ground flat, you could barely tell we've even been there. We then have to plug weld along the bottom of the rear quarter as well, making sure we weld in every single part that was an OEM weld, and then use a belt sander to remove any excess weld. When Rashford had this crash, his insurance had to make a decision whether they was going to fix his car or give him the payout. And if they fixed it, they would have to replace all of these panels like for like, brand new. I remember how much these panels cost, and adding all the labour onto it, it would have been an extremely expensive repair. So you can see why instead they chose to pay him out and put it through the auction site for me to buy.
No, too much. Oh, whoa, 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 hold it out, hold it out, hold it out, hold it out.
Now this is the tricky part.
You smell like burning?
Yeah, okay.
That's my arms.
The lads were putting their body on the line to make sure these lined up perfectly with one another. Once they're happy with it, they put a few spot welds in place to hold it on. Then the guys can put in a load more welds to make sure it's nice and secure. The key is here not to get the panel too hot, because it can actually warp it. And this roof panel running down to the rear quarter is one big smooth piece. So any defects will be easily seen when we come to paint it. Once the welds are in place, we can then sand it down and make it nice and smooth. And to be fair, by just welding this on and no body filler, they've got this thing spot on. Something that takes years of experience, this. The rear quarter is on. Sue and Margaret has now become Sue Margaret.
I like
Look
it.
at this, it's all joined up and on, all the welding work, and I'm glad, like, this is something that I probably couldn't have done. Well, we probably could have done it, but not as good as this, because now, like, you literally wouldn't be able to tell, like, there's not even any filler in that or anything yet, and it's pretty much bang on smooth. All the spot welds are in to an extent. This is a point where it's going to get, well, I'm going to get my hands dirty, because just in the side here, you can see all in the door shuts how the welds are here. Now normally when I join the panels on, we use like the plug welding, so we'll drill a hole, fill it full of weld, and then we'll sand it down and make it nice and smooth, which is fine all on these parts here, which you can't see. It goes, the seal covers go over the top of them, but on the door shuts you're going to see a lot of this. So when you're opening the door, we want it to look all OEM when it's all painted up, especially on a £700,000 car, which is why the lads have got one of these, a spot welder, different to a regular MIG welder to do the plug weld. So this is going to give us that OEM finish when we clamp all this together. So the lads have already set it up, and I think I'm just going to go for it and get it all in. This thing is going to give us such a good finish. Crazy, look at that! You know, on the 24-hour challenge, I would have smashed it if I had this. Look at that.
I can't believe how good that is.
You can't even tell. When they're building the car at the factory, they use these spot welders to join the panels together. It gives the nicest finish. But instead of doing it by hand, of course they have a robot do it. This machine is heavy and really expensive. And because it's quite big, you can't necessarily get the spot welder in all the places you want to. But look at the finish it gives, comparing it to the OEM side and then the side that I've just done. I can actually move the spot welder into the boot because there's enough room to do the spot welding there. But in a lot of the places, we do have to use the plug welding technique. But luckily for us, the places that you can see are going to be spot welded. Definitely thinking about getting one of these for myself. quarters all done, welded in place. There's one more bit of damage over here. I don't know how this was caused. Lamppost, other person, don't know. But we're gonna get it out. First step I've got to do is mask off the area. I don't want to cause any damage to the Mansory front wing or the Mansory bonnet. Then we can start grinding off all the paint over the dented area. Now after all this, the car should look brand new, OEM. But if you don't want to end up buying a car that's had all this work done to it like this, then you can use a tool called Car Vertical, which if you put in any registration plate or VIN number, you can find the full history of the car out. Just like this car on the screen now. Once all the paint's removed, we can move to the next step. Look at this bad boy. Sucks to the floor. We can't use it in my unit because it would have pulled up the floor tiles. But here it was sucked to the concrete floor, so we've got like a base. An airline goes to this, and then we should be able to start pulling out this A-pillar by using this. So, right. I then got to weld into place loads of these forks into the deepest part of the dent. Now Car Vertical will actually show you whether your car's been involved in an accident, whether it's had any mileage fraud, whether it's ever been recorded as stolen, and it'll even show you a full timeline of the car. Now moving back to this dent pulling tool, we put the metal through the forks now, and the tool is sucked to the floor, and the forks will hook onto this piece of metal, and I will start cranking it back, pulling the dent away from the car. And you can see how far it's pulling it here. And then we just keep going until we're happy with where the dent is. And if your car has been in an accident, then it's likely it will show you photos from the car, of the car, when it was at the car crash auction website, just like the car on the screen now. Car Vertical works in over 20 different countries and gathers data from all over the world. And if your car has been categorized, it will tell you when it was and what category it is. Look at that. It's loads better. It's not fully out, but we're past the first stage. And remember, if you want to check your car out, you can do with the link in the description box below, and using my code MATT, you can save yourself a nice bit of discount as well. Next step, more of it. To pull out the last parts of the dents, we use this tool. It welds into the deepest part of the dent, then we sort of pull hammer it back until you end up with this. And to get rid of all of this mess, we just need to grind down all of the high spots. And eventually, look at that, the dent is all pulled out. Easy as that. This next step, I've never seen done ever before. Now instead of using body filler to fill the gap between the old panel and the new panel, we're using lead. This is an old school technique, but in my opinion, it's a lot better. Filler can sink over time and can sometimes give you that sort of wavy effect. But instead of filling the low point with filler, we're filling it with lead, actual metal. So there's no chance of it sinking in the future. And it's going to give us that proper OEM finish. They use this technique on a lot of the old classic cars. And to be honest, there's not really many people which do it now. And that is looking really good. Rear quarter finally on and done. But now, because we've actually moved this strut tower up here, it's time to put it all on and make sure everything all does line up, and put the wheel on and the strut back in. So let's get this fitted, and hopefully we've had a successful day. The vital moment now of putting back in the rear shock absorber. Hoping that everything does all line up to the original spots. I'm now putting in the nuts which hold it to the top of the car. Then I've got to go back underneath and put the bolt through which holds it to the wheel hub. And so far, so good. Next up is the wheel, and we can lower it all down and check it's all good. Okay. It's going to be decked because there's no air in it, but we want to see that. We want to see the deckness. The slam bus. Oh Jesus. Oh wow. It's been a lot of work, but finally we have a straight rear quarter and most of the bodywork done on the car. It's on from Agnes. Part of Agnes is now on Margaret, and that is all smoothed in and ready for the next step, which is paint. We finally did it. Let's get this thing painted. If you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.
Tony, how long do you think this is actually going to take you?
Forever. I think I might be here and there'll be just bones.
Like a drug that I just can't deny.